We're doing it live. What is up, everybody? We're back for another episode of the Source 4 show featuring me, Edwin, Source 4 Gaming, and my co host for the week. Would you like to introduce yourself?
I don't think it's for the week.
Hey, this week and every other week, apparently.
There
Still counts, still technically correct.
you go. Just feels weird when you're a staple.
Oh,
It's me, Mickey Rooney, or
yeah?
something. I just want to go on record that the shipping is more expensive than the record.
For getting that vinyl from Belgium or whatever.
I
That's
think it's
wild.
well. I mean, the band's from Antwerp. Yeah.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm just gonna have to browse through and see if there's anything else I want. If I have to pay 22 euro to get it to me.
That makes sense. Got to combine the stuff together to get like as much
So
kind
we're
of
not gonna do that right now because that would require work
effort and
and
thought.
research and shopping probably. This is why I need my own vinyl press so that I can tell these bands, hey, I'll do a limited pressing of like 50 records if you want to ship from the US.
Yeah, let's do it stateside for you. I'll do it for you. Just cost
Yeah,
of
pay me
cost
in a
of,
copy of the record.
yeah, pay me
and
a copy of the
supplies.
record and the cost of
I'll, I'll,
supplies.
I'll make them at cost, yeah.
Yeah.
I like fundamentally that's what I want to do when I eventually get to where I'm creating records and recording them is be like, hey, if we want to release albums, like this is your shit. Understand that the costs are going to be taken on by you to make this shit, but I'm not going to profit off of your work.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. That's kind of I respect that.
I'm a very bad capitalist.
I know, right? I'm very bad at the capitalism game myself. All of my things are like, if I make money, everyone at this company should make money equally. We should all be profiting off of our efforts and labors, and then we all work harder in our glorious effort. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I do think
Theoretically.
it should be relative to the amount of work that you're doing. Like, I do think there's a place where management with more responsibilities gets compensated
Yeah.
better than
Yeah.
other positions. But yeah, like at the basis of things, like a co-op makes sense to where theoretically, right, you would be like, oh, well, we've got 5 employees.
Hmm.
Head honcho does the most work. They get 20% of the total proceeds that this company makes, and then you do percentails
Yeah, but it's like
down to where
exactly. It's
at some point you hit
percentiles.
100% of your profitability.
Yeah, exactly. But anyway, talking about
We
our
can talk about economics.
yeah, we could talk about our socialist leanings and if we wanted to. But is there anything else you've been doing this week? Like anything you wanted to talk about? Because I got things I can talk about, but
Yeah, well,
figured I'd let
I'll
you
tee
lead.
up, and if we have time, I'll mention. I mean, I've mostly just been reading, and I watched a little bit of.
Hey, if you've been
some
reading, we
shows.
could talk about that too. We could talk about books. We could talk about whatever the hell we've been doing in the
We
in the
know you
content
don't do book
consumption.
club. We know you don't do books.
I
You don't do
read a
books without-
book.
without pictures.
I read a book. It had some pictures in it, but
Did
it was
read from
also a
right to
book.
left and was
No,
mostly,
no.
Okay.
It was a book. It was like it had a lot of like DIY stuff in it. It was very interesting. I learned some things that I didn't know before I read that book, and I went, "Huh, fascinating." Gave me some like crafty ideas.
DIY home goods, DIY.
Yeah. So
cosplay, DIY.
okay, yeah, I'll just talk about what the book I read
music.
was. So
Yeah.
you know who Aurelio Voltaire, like the YouTuber and
Yeah.
musician, is. He has a book that he put out called Gothic Homemaking. He was a
I
nice
don't know
gentleman.
that he's a YouTuber. That actually upsets me.
He is. He is a YouTuber and musician. I mean, he's been doing both. But musician for 20 years, YouTuber for like 8, whatever. But wonderful man. Met him at his show this year he did in my backyard with my friend. It was a good time. And he's been working on this Gothic homemaking book for a long time. And I bought a copy because it was like $20. I felt like supporting him, and it was a fun read. Gave me some ideas for things, and it was interesting. I learned some history about like the goth subculture that I didn't quite know beforehand. Mostly just like some people that I was not familiar with, or like I didn't know what
Like
was it? I didn't know Robert Smith was originally in Siouxsie and the Banshees. I can't ever
Susie.
say the first name
It's
right.
just Susie.
Is it just Susie? I'm trying
the
to read it the way
abbreviation
it's spelled is the problem. And no
well,
one's ever said it
it's
out loud to me.
it's Susie Sue,
Uh-huh.
and it's I like if you think about this, it makes sense because it's spelled like the tribe,
Yeah.
like Sioux Indian. So
Yeah.
it's Susie.
Yeah, but I just was trying to like read it in literal English, and no one had ever said it out loud to me before who also didn't try to say it that same
Yeah.
way. But
I
I
mean,
did
this
not
is one of
know that
those
he was
things
part
that
of that band, so that was fascinating to me. Because I
I
actually
mean, it's
quite
also
like them.
been yeah. I mean, it's been a recent development for me that you have any interest in like post punk and goth. Like, we can definitely get into some shoegaze and shit in the next little bit. I'm totally down. I really like a lot of. I mean, pick a genre, throw a dart at
Yeah,
a dartboard,
yeah.
and I probably like
Probably
it
know a
unless it's
few
like
at least,
Christian
yeah.
metalcore. Like,
Yeah,
oh
but
god, I went to a Target for the first time. Like, went inside of a Target for the first
uh-huh.
time in a very long time this week. Mostly on a
Uh-huh.
whim because I was grabbing coffee
I've been going to
outside
them
of the
looking for
Target.
Halloween shit, and mine still
It's
has all like their school stuff out, and like the shelves are empty
oh,
for
it's
the
up now.
Halloween stuff, but there's not mine. At least
You wanna bet?
at least as of last week it wasn't. So
Yeah, the Plano went up this week. I was
everywhere
there
else
while they
it's
were
been up
putting
for
it up.
like weeks. It's been driving me crazy. I see it on
Yeah,
TikTok
well,
and like other places, and I'm like, wish it was mine. Anyway,
I anyway, that was what I was walking in for, was
Halloween
to
shit. Yeah, because
browse,
they actually have some
and
kind
then
of cool Halloween shit this year that I saw.
I did not. But I, wandered over, and, 2 things. 1, the Target by my house has officially done away with movies. They don't have movies anymore.
What?
Just gone. There is
No
1 row
physical
of
media.
books. There is 1 row of books, there is 1 row of video games, and the rest of the electronics section is like cables and televisions and phones.
No movies.
Just gone. Yeah.
Fascinating. I
I
wonder.
mean, it doesn't bother me. It makes sense.
I get it. I feel like
Everybody
especially
invested so heavily in both digital
streaming.
media and
Yeah.
streaming. I mean, to the point where right now, like, I would buy, I mean, I would buy it digitally more than likely, but I would buy copies. I would buy seasons of shows for several shows that I'm
Hmm.
interested in watching. And they're like, oh no, you have to buy a subscription to one of these 3 services or you cannot watch it. And then
Hmm.
I don't. I
Yeah.
mean, I think we've touched on that previously, but like, Apple TV Plus has 4 or 5 great sci-fi shows, and also Yo Gabba Gabba and Yo Gabba Gabba Land. And you know what? You can't watch it anywhere else, so I don't.
Yeah. I've I've been trying to make an effort again to like get back into like Blu-rays and buying Blu-rays for movies that like I really really like. But I also like in the back of my mind, I read a little bit about it. There's like a codec or something you need for them. Isn't there like a possibility that they can just one day just turn off your ability to read those Blu-rays and just
No,
not access them anymore? I thought that was
no.
a thing that was like a, a thing at the
Devices,
back.
sure. Yes. Theoretically, you would have devices that are encoded that wouldn't be able to read it. But no, Blu-rays are just like DVDs to where as long as you are invested in being able to use them,
Uh-huh.
you would just have to buy a specialty Blu-ray player. Like, it would
Yeah.
be a region-free uncoded device,
Yeah,
and
I
then you
think
can
the
play everything.
reason it became a problem was because it was one time when we tried to watch Princess Mononoke a long time ago, and like my computer has a Blu-ray reader in it, and I was like, oh, I should be able to just pop this in there and watch it like I used to with DVDs, right? And it was like, no, you cannot. This is Disney, baby.
Well,
You can't do shit.
yeah, I mean, part of it, frequently you have to use, I mean, you probably have VLC installed. Anyway, it might
I
have
do.
been the codec, like, digital device on your PC that was having trouble. But yeah, I mean, like, I used to, in college, I just, like, physical media is a little bit a thing of the past for me. Like, I still want to support the
Hmm.
creators, and that's why I buy things. But the second I buy something digitally, I download it and
Uh-huh.
keep it on a drive. Like,
Yeah.
it's not a situation where I'm trusting the overlords to allow me access to things.
Yes.
However, like, my biggest issue with it now is like bulk. Like, you have a little more space than I do,
Yeah.
so I
I
guess
I
there's some
know.
understanding there. But like, can
Yeah.
you imagine if every movie I owned and every TV show and every album that I've ever bought, I had a physical copy of, because
Uh-huh.
I would not have a house anymore.
Yeah. I had like a coworker that I used to work with who was really into like media, like support and things like archiving, I guess is the way I would describe it, because that man, he had like a full media server in his home, like set up like racks, and he would just like spend hours just backing up legacy shows and movies and things just to have them, because he was like, they're gonna go away someday and I'm gonna have the only copy. And I was like, hey man, I mean, I kind of get you. There's a few things that I've like wanted to watch from my childhood that are just gone to the void because they aired on television. They never got a DVD release, and they have no interest in ever airing it or streaming it anywhere. So it's just gone.
So this is where I'm not boysen brained enough, because I guarantee you, whatever it is that you think you want to watch, I can find you a copy.
I could probably find it. It's just a low quality, like dog shit version usually. Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know that the archival versions of that would be much better, but like again, my point is more like, I will keep mine. If my backup dies, then I'm just gonna sit there and go, yeah, better download another copy. Like I'm not gonna have a RAID server system, but I will probably have a rack system before too long, just as a necessity of my recording space. Like that is very much in the cards.
Yeah. I probably will at some point in my life too, whenever I get like all of my shit together in like some sort of semblance of a way I want it to be in this house.
Speaking of, hold on. Somehow, I love that YouTube now on desktop is doing the thing where it defaults to not my channel. But no, so there's a is there a way to just see my subscriptions? There we go. I just wanted to make a plug real quick, and I didn't remember the name of the folks that I'm about to plug. So shit. It's,
plug
so one of the guys, yeah, well, one of the guys that I listen to regularly, he's got a music podcast, but he has started an archival YouTube channel. There we go. All right. It is Public Domain Classics 888, and to date, at this point, he now has 515 films in their full version online for free.
Oh wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I watched last Halloween. I watched a lot of like backed up like videos on YouTube because they weren't streaming anywhere, but people had posted them to YouTube, and they were like, "Yeah, it's fine, I guess."
Well, I mean, and a lot of them are like 50s and earlier, because that's really where the public domain law allows for. But like, you've got Teenagers Battle the Thing and Evil Brain from Outer Space, and there's also like classic westerns, just anything that's hit it.
Yeah.
But the reason we're plugging this is that he is not yet to where it can be run commercial free or ad supported. And folks should subscribe.
Yeah.
They're at about 150 at this point.
Hell yeah. I love that. It's dope.
Yeah, very worthy effort. And not necessarily like the things you would expect. Like some of these are very much like, oh yeah, these are just like movies that made it onto Mystery Science Theater and deserved to be there.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
There's other stuff that you've never heard of, and you're like, oh, okay, that's worth a try.
Yeah.
There's also, problematic historical shit, but still presented in its original version.
Yeah.
Huh. You know, like,
oh, I know,
Sidney Poitier films and stuff like that before he became a character actor. Like, there's some questionable shit from early Hollywood.
Yeah.
Also, we decided that only white men can act, so they play every role.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
regardless of their true ethnicities.
I can be Hawaiian, I can be Chinese, I can be caricatures of Chinese people for villains, I can be black, I can be Jewish, I can be Arabic. You just put me out there. I could play Gandhi, just like the not so late, sort of great Ben Kingsley.
It still like blew me away when I realized that like the chick who played Vasquez in Aliens was like a New York white Jewish lady. I never knew that they just like tanned the fuck out of her.
How that would surprise you.
I didn't look up her name. I just knew, yeah, it's Vasquez, whatever. I took it as it was presented to me. I didn't dig deeper.
You just don't have that Latina radar. My heart beats.
Who's just a tan person. I'm like, all right, cool. Tan person, black hair. Let's go.
to make fun of you and tease you a little bit more. It just like super fitting that you're like childhood crush, and it's like, yeah, it's another Jewish lady. Don't get this man started on Dat Kinnings.
It's okay.
Just don't understand it. It's okay.
It's okay.
It is okay. It is okay. Um, all that to say, that is not what I was reading.
Yeah, what were you reading? You reading a book? Yeah, we started talking about books originally.
Well, so if you're familiar with Glenn Cook, he wrote the Black Company novels
Yep, I have one of them on my shelf over here.
that
Never
I
finished.
really, really like the first trilogy. I think there's 9 of them. There might be more than 9 of them at this point. I read all of them when I was in
Mhm.
college, and as they went, I pulled further and further away from them. But they're a very interesting take, right? Very boots on the ground, grounded,
Yeah.
company-based combat. Interesting takes on magic, right?
Mhm.
I don't know, like it's not really spoiling anything to say that the way that magic works in the world,
Yeah.
like there are inherent abilities to the level of magic that a wizard can perform.
Mhm.
However, with enough preparation, theoretically like a level 1 wizard is just as powerful as like level 40 wizard, to
Yeah.
use video game and RPG terms. They just have to spend a shit ton of time prepping that.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's a lot of elements that I really enjoyed. I am currently reading his Dread Empire series, and so once again they collect it in trilogies, and so I'm reading the first one. The first book was very dry, but ended with a flourish that I
Mhm.
really appreciated, and I'm halfway through the second one now, and very campaign based. It is right back to his old tricks of we're going to focus on these mercenaries that have been thrown into a conflict that they are ill prepared for. And I would recommend it. I am not going to dive too far into it, but they do some interesting things. I don't know
What book is
you
that?
know, the Dread Empire
Oh, okay.
series.
I was just curious because I figured out which one that I
Um
have is, and
yeah, there's a
I
collection
missed that
that's like
part.
The Cruel Wind and something or other.
Yeah, I've got like the one that's on my shelf over here that I've been trying to. I've never finished was like the Tyranny of the Night. It's like the Instrumentalities of the Night series or something.
I
Also Glenn Cook.
don't recognize the title, but let's see. Tyranny of the Night. It is not even found on Wait, hold on.
I just googled it and it was like Tyranny of the Night or something.
It is a part of the Instrumentalities of
Yeah,
the Night, which is
yeah,
an epic fantasy in a reinterpreted version of 13th century Europe and Asia. Okay,
yeah.
never heard of it. Written in 2005. Cool.
Yep, yep. It's been on my shelf for a while. Never. I bought it in college. I think I just never got around to finishing it.
Well, that's like evidently so the Dread Empire series was like his original,
Uh huh.
as far as I can tell. Like it very much is um like he wrote it in the 70s.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he like got back from Nam and was like, you know what I need to read
Yeah.
is this story that's a like loose allegory of crusades and how violence is a cycle and it never actually solves anything. And at the heart of everything, like any void will be filled, and uh inherently evil will always lead. And you're like,
Mhm.
yeah, fair enough. I mean, I will say he's not an optimist generally,
What? No.
but there's a lot of humanity. Like that's the one thing
Okay,
that
yeah.
really stood out to me in the Black Company. And like as the later books went on, like the ones that were written in the 90s and aughts, it's very
Mhm.
much a little bit more high fantasy and a little bit more or a little bit less of the camaraderie. But
Yeah.
you know, if you want to pretend like George R. R. Martin knows how to write a book with some shocking turns and twists and character deaths, like ain't seen nothing. Like, well, Did you read any of the Black Company?
No. I'm
Well, just
familiar with them by name because that's why I know who Glenn Cook is, because people bring his name up and that series up all the time whenever I'm like talking about fantasy things.
well, the only spoiler I'll give is like in the first book, there are three wizards
Uh-huh.
that are kind of some of the characters that you grow to like a little bit more.
Dead.
And
All of them. Kill
well, one of them is
them.
just like first chapter, like we're doing character development, we're meeting all of our characters, and then he's just
Bam.
gone.
Dead.
And it's not even really like explored. It's just how it affects everybody for the next several chapters.
Yeah, he's just
And then
dead.
like and then toward the end of the book, it very much is like you've been walking along with these guys this whole time, and on a battlefield, like stray arrow catches one of them, just gone, like just mid sentence drops, and you're like, oh yeah, like
I kind of
it's
respect
just,
that. I kind of
and
do.
it is like it's a realistic take on the horrors of war, rather than being like, oh no, all of your heroes are either going to survive or go out in this blaze of glory and this grand heroic death. It's very much like,
Yeah, no, he just fucking died.
no, your buddy in the foxhole next to you might have been hit by a shell. Like he's just gone.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that's been fun.
yeah,
Had a lot of time to read while I was traveling, so
yeah.
that's where I'm parked with it. Rewatching Boardwalk Empire,
Oh yeah.
and it just like it is very funny to me how much Boardwalk Empire and Peaky Blinders very much cribbed off of each other.
It's very funny to me that you're saying that because you know what I've been rewatching this last week.
Probably Peaky Blinders.
Yeah, someone I hang out with all the time has never seen it, and my mom was like, "We could rewatch Peaky Blinders," and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess okay." Just like
Hey, eventually
Sam Neill.
the he's barely in that show.
He's in the first season. I'm in the first season, so he's in like every episode doing his bad Irish accent the whole time. Just
I,
Mr.
I mean,
Salvay.
it's he quite literally was born in Northern Ireland.
Yeah, but he's like a New Zealander. Like he's been there most of his life.
Sure, but like I would argue of the accents in that show, his is nowhere near the most offensive. You haven't even seen Tom Hardy, who doesn't
Yes,
even
I
seem
have.
to understand how to act.
I've seen
I'm
every
saying
season
so
of this.
far.
I
Like,
know.
he's awful in that show.
Yeah, but he's Tom Hardy, and I
Well,
love him, so I'm just like,
if me for New York and British Jew. Okay, Tom, that's a choice. I mean,
Tom Hardy.
I'll give him that. It's like, I mean, there's, it's fine. My point was just like, it's very funny to me that they both ran very closely to each other, because like Peaky Blinders was 2013, Boardwalk Empire
Yep.
was like 2010, but once they got into their show, like with the delays that both of them saw, they basically wrapped with the same number of seasons in almost the same amount of time.
Peaky Blinders is still going. They're not
No,
done yet.
no, it's not. That show is very much dead and in the ground, except
They have a
they might
movie.
make a new movie at some point. But the movie's
It's
been in
coming.
development hell forever.
Coming,
No,
yeah.
no.
Coming.
Originally it was a season, and then
Yep.
it wasn't, and then what's her name died, so then they
Yep.
kind of dedicated the final season to her, and then they had to write around her, and then they had to do like, I cannot imagine.
And then
what
your
they
lead
think.
actor was in Oppenheimer and like was obviously gone for a shit ton of time. COVID happened, all kinds of bullshit.
Yeah, I just can't imagine that that's going to be anything but bad. And also, it's supposedly going to heavily feature Hitler, because why wouldn't
Played
it?
supposedly. I don't know. Last time I heard
Well,
anything about
Hitler's
it,
already been in the show. If they recast him, I'll be very surprised.
last I heard, like last time I looked into this like a year or so ago, is what's his fucking name? Mr. Bean. What's his fucking name? The actor
Rowan
who plays.
Atkinson?
Yeah, it was like Rowan Atkinson was supposed to be Hitler.
Could be.
Could be.
Anyway, I also watched. I mean, I'm keeping up with Futurama, which you should
Oh,
too.
I forgot about that. I do need to keep up with that. I
And
haven't been keeping up with that.
the there's a new season of Hit Monkey out, and I never watched the first season of Hit Monkey until this season. And the only feedback that I really have is that they had a huge missed opportunity by not making the lead like Christian Slater
Yeah.
or somebody of that ilk. Did you give it a try at all?
I watched like the first couple of episodes when it came out in like what 2018, 2019.
I think the first season was 2020, and
Was it
then the
2020?
second
I
season
don't.
came out this week,
Oh yeah. I mean, I
or
watched like a
maybe
couple of like the first
last week.
episodes when it first came out or whatever, and it didn't quite land for me.
So the writing is on point for me. It's just dumb enough. Like the cynical hitman ghost. Just there's a line in, I think it's the third or fourth episode. It's the one where he's at the casino and the monkey discovers alcohol. Very good
Uh-huh.
episode. Um, but the monkey goes, "Ook," right?
Duke.
And the
Yes.
hitman goes, "What's a casino? What do you mean you don't know what a casino is? What's a casino? Well, it's like you took the happiest place on earth and you mixed it with the saddest place on earth." And that's the whole line. It's the whole joke. And it works so well for me.
Accurate. Accurate description
Like
of a casino.
it's still low rent Disney Marvel being done as a
Yeah.
Hulu original. But like I have been surprised so far at both the voice acting and some of the artwork. And
Yeah.
it's fun enough. Monkey with gun.
Monkey
Except
with
it's
gun and
Monkey is very
katana.
conflicted about killing. Monkey don't want to kill.
Monkey born to kill.
No, Monkey better than that. Monkey Dad know he better than that. Good. It genuinely is fun. I don't know that I'll ever rewatch it, but for now it's 3-4 hours of dumb fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been rewatching a lot of things recently, mostly because someone I've been hanging out with hasn't seen them ever, or is just wanting to watch them again. And I'm like, all right, it's fine. I've been watching Gravity Falls again, and I was already kind of wanting to watch that again too. So it's been a good time.
Won't watch Gravity Falls with me and watch it with Twin Peaks. Something about the Twin Lodges.
Yeah, I'm like 6 episodes in or whatever. It's interesting watching it going back because there's like a lot of like, there's a big twist at the end of the show. Spoilers, and if you go back, there's a lot of like hints and clues that didn't make sense the first time, and now you go back and go, oh, okay, it's always been here. It's just we didn't have the
It's
context
almost
to
like
it. This makes sense.
the creator was heavily influenced by
Yeah,
Twin Peaks.
yeah, it's almost like it.
I just like I'm sure there was media before that really played into that, but just the
Uh-huh.
amount of foreshadowing and like 35 episodes ago we telegraphed this and it paid off now.
Yep.
My biggest challenge with that show, more than just that it's a kid show, and like not
Yeah.
that I need to discount that at all. Like there are plenty of good kid shows. I just talked about how I really want to watch Yo Gabba Gabba.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, the art style is really atrocious for me.
I like
Like
it. It's
such
just
a huge
simple.
turnoff.
Yeah.
And everything Disney did for that era, and even some independent companies did for that era, looks the same. Like Steven Universe looks very similar. The She-Ra show looks very similar. Just very not human at all, but also not creative with your artistry. It's like clearly meant to evoke simplified human characters. And like
Yeah. They're simplified silhouettes. Like you should
part of it
theoretically be
is
able
that
to
the only
tell
things
who.
that get shared, I'm sure, are character moments. But
Yeah.
like all I ever see of it is like, oh wow, I really don't like that art style, and oh wow, people are really fixated on these children.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is the fandom of it all, just
Yeah.
awful.
A little bit. That's every fandom is kind of bad though. That's the thing. Like I can enjoy a media and also just be like, I have no desire to interact with this fandom whatsoever outside of just watching this thing.
I understand what you're saying, but it's the biggest hurdle that I have with kid shows and specifically with animation featuring children, because for whatever reason, we've already talked about my hangups with the fact that people want to sexualize every cartoon character.
Yeah.
But the fact that they do it with literal children, that they're like watching this show and they're like, I'm so horned up. Let me get some children at summer camp interacting with all the other various characters of this show or each other. And I'm like, I don't want or need that. Why do you exist? And that is probably that might have been my introduction to that show.
Yeah.
Was being on 4chan and people are like, Gravity Falls, Loud House.
Yeah, I think it helps that like a lot of the people who do that, there's a large portion of them who are like obsessed with them because they were like the age of the characters in the show. But then there's the other percentage that are the terrible people on the internet who,
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't even say terrible people on the internet. I would just say that there's a wide crossover between people who like kids shows and people who like kids.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's an
We're gonna
unfortunate
express
Venn
ourselves.
diagram. It's a very unfortunately very close to circular Venn
No,
diagram.
friend. It is simply Shota and Yuri and Loli. It is not. It is not the bad. It is not. It's not action. It's cartoons. It's cartoons. They're all adults.
Yeah.
What's the anime joke? 10,000-year-old dragon priestess.
Yeah,
Or something?
10,000-year-old vampire. She's a 10,000-year-old vampire that just
There you
looks
go.
like she's 5 years old.
And so, like, again, I'm sure it's perfectly nice. And maybe if I had an incentive, I would eventually give it a try and maybe even enjoy it. But, like, I don't know. Like, Adventure Time was similar where I'm like, I don't like how this looks. I also don't know that there's a story going on here. And the one-off episodes are not catching my interest.
Yeah, well, Adventure Time for me didn't ever really like stick until they started getting like a few seasons deep into it, and then they're like, there is actually an overarching narrative to this whole thing, and I was like, oh, well, you kind of buried the lead on that one because like I didn't know that that even existed, and that's what made me go back and start watching it. Was because it was like they told me it was like a post-apocalypse world, and there was like all this other stuff, and I was like, okay, now I'm more interested instead of it just being generic like weird fantasy land.
The one episode that I enjoy from that show, and it had to be from one of the first 2 seasons,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the one where they thaw the businessman. It's like Encino Man.
Yes.
There's a businessman in a block of
Yes.
ice, and they thaw
Uh-huh.
him out. Make things more efficient. He do business.
He
I,
do
I
business.
actively reference that frequently in my corporate day job while I slave a almighty dollar.
He do business. Keyboard clack away.
I mean, I don't think he has keyboard, but he does.
He has like an abacus or some shit.
Well, they start doing the quests. Like they find the most efficient way to do quests without Finn and Jake's involvement. Like it's very
Yep.
simple.
Yep. They streamline everything.
I think it's business time.
It's probably just called business time because that sounds right.
Oh, is that the naming convention?
That very much is a naming convention for a while, I think. At least maybe in like the earlier seasons.
So I had to pull it up because I wanted to get the line right. But at the opening sequence of that episode, when they're fishing and end up finding the iceberg, is Finn sitting there and being like, I found another bike and more computers. And Jake is just like, I just keep finding baby shoes. And they're all lefties.
Why are they all left baby shoes?
I just like
Adventure Time has some nuggets in there that I love.
Yeah, like again, I'm not saying there's not value there. It just I think I was just old enough that it wasn't up my alley. And if I'm gonna go back and watch a kids show, I'm probably just gonna watch kids shows that I enjoyed from my childhood. Like there's a healthy amount of that is the nostalgia and comfort place. But I genuinely don't like rewatching a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And if I'm gonna watch something new, typically I need something that's meaty that I can dig into. I don't do a lot of the background noise where it's just, oh yeah, I'm just gonna put on like 15 episodes of this thing.
Yeah, I get that.
To it at all.
Yeah, I get that. I hadn't watched Gravity Falls since I think I was in college when I first watched it. That's why it's been at least
You definitely were
7,
in
8
college when
years.
you were
Yeah.
watching it.
Yeah. So it's
Whether or
been
not
like,
that was the last time you watched it.
that was the last time I watched it. It was like 7, 8 years ago. So I was like, I'm revisiting it and I'm like having the episodes are new to me basically because I've forgotten a lot of the middle episodes where there's like not a main plot thing that happened. I'm like, oh yeah, this is this guy again. I don't know. I like Stan. Stan's my favorite in the show. I love Grunkle Stan. Remember, kids, it's not illegal if there's not a cop around. And I was like, oh, I wonder what helped shape some of my opinions.
Oh, if you want some choice opinions, I can get you some literature,
Nah, but
some
it's just
media and
very,
literature.
I just love that guy. He's great. He's very funny. He's just like a sleazy con man. And I'm like, look at him go. Look at him go.
You kept up with Randy this week?
Randy. Pitchford? Oh, no, I've not kept up with Pitchford.
So,
I
so you know
Is he
how
having a weird meltdown still?
it's only getting compiled further because you remember when I was surprised that they had published Risk of Rain? It turns out
Yeah.
that they only published this most recent DLC for Risk of Rain 2, and it's buggy and broken.
Ah!
But in response to his critics and his haters, he you remember when the Beatles said that they were bigger than Jesus and everybody got upset? Well, now Randy Pitchford is like, well, the Beatles only had like a 25% success rate. They can't all be hits. In response to the fact that, I don't know, 3 of the like 10 things that he's ever released have been dog shit recently.
Fucking
And
Randy.
oh, by the way, there's also Aliens and
that
all
man.
these other.
The worst part is that man is like in my backyard. Like I could feasibly run into this man in public, in the wild. That's what's funnier to me.
Like, while I understand the way you're using it, should clarify. Like, lives near me, within a stone's throw. Folks are gonna think you're having concerts in your lavish mansion in South Lake.
Yeah, I mean, he lives somewhere in the Dallas area. Okay,
yeah, we know. That's where he leaves all of his child.
I know
sexual material.
I did know a guy like in my car club or something who used to work for Gearbox, and I don't know how high up he was, but he had some interesting political opinions. So I never really became good friends with him because I was like, distance myself from that guy.
I would imagine to work at a successful game dev that also is in Texas has to be a bastion for libertarians.
Yeah, and he also had like $120,000 car or something. No, he was like hard right conservative. That's the kind of interesting opinions I'm talking about.
No, you don't understand. Have you ever met an anarcho-capitalist?
Oh, I know. I have.
They are like the even more ghoulish versions of libertarians. They're like, I want my guns, I want my freedom, I don't want nobody to touch my money, and I should be able to murder people at will. And you're like, holy shit, what the fuck is wrong with you? Yeah, no, like, so the fundamentals of anarcho-capitalism, and they'll argue against this. Like,
yeah.
I don't want.
Wow, I'm very familiar.
We don't need to get really political here. However, functionally, it is like the Mad Max dystopia, which is the strong survive. Like, if you are able to take something, you should take it. That is how capitalism thrives. You should take and take and take and consume.
Yeah, and that's trample the weak, hurdle the dead, yada yada, that
it's
sort
like
of thing.
The only bad anarchism.
Yeah. It's probably like the closest thing to the anarchism that most people think of when they like think of anarchism in a negative way.
Except they want to be rich assholes.
I know.
They want to be king shit of fuck mountain in the wastelands. Like, that is, it's
yeah, they want everything to fail so that they can just do it again when they're in charge. Because that's where everything fucked up. They weren't the ones running the system, man.
It's not super far away from, well, again, they don't want the system. Like, the entire goal is, let me have my castle and you bring me shit and I trade for it because I have stuff and I'm better than you. Anyway, I don't like
no
bury them in shallow graves.
No, absolutely. Oh gosh, what else do we got going on?
You got topics. I got nothing else.
I got a few things. So Madden 25 came out like this last week or something, the newest sports Madden game. And it's
the only thing I know about it is that the visuals are worse than the college football game, which is very
That's
funny.
What I was about to say was it has less features than the college football game, that came out like a couple of months before it. Like they took away systems that were in that one that didn't make it into Madden. It was like, why is this not a thing here?
I can virtually guarantee you that it makes sense though, because they are fundamentally different experiences, right?
Well,
Like
yes.
there is no franchise system to a college football game.
Right.
You can run the school, but
Yeah.
you've got a rotation of 5 years of players, right? Because you're going to
Yeah,
redshirt them.
yeah, yeah.
But like they have to have more depth of gameplay for the
Yeah.
gameplay portions of it. But it's the interesting part of it for me is that these games have the life that they do because like the gameplay
I'm
of,
amazed, honestly.
well, but they're sports sims and very specifically they are franchise sims. And yet people
I have a
play them
point about
like
that.
the gameplay is what they want to play and I'm like, why
Uh-huh.
would you do that? The
Uh-huh.
entire point of this game is to have the computers do the
Yes.
game.
Well, that's one aspect of it, but let me tell you this, Brian. Would it surprise you to know that no matter what you do to change like the settings and stuff on the simulation, it basically comes out the same every single time, no matter what you do. Like the numbers barely change if you change like statistics for players or teams or anything. Like the simulation, if you simulate a season, comes out basically the same no matter what. Like it functionally does not do simulation of seasons.
It a lot of that'll be tied to both difficulty level and sliders in game. Like there
No, I'm saying
I can,
those sliders, like people like did tests where they like ran the entire gambit of like every slider and like it came out with like within 0.01 of like where it was supposed to. Like all the numbers were basically the same. Like the results ended up like the same every single time. Like it does not work.
it could be. I would be very surprised to see that they have tested all of the settings on all the various difficulty levels with all the modifications. Like if the question or the object in question is like I built a team of 99s and ran them against the enemy AI for the entire season and it came out the same. Like yeah, that's probably true because the default setting for AI
Mm-hmm.
is that it rubber bands to stabilize. So like you can never pull away from the pack nor can you fall behind.
Uh-huh.
And then as you increase difficulty levels, it just makes it so that it's easier to fall behind. Like that's forever been
Yep.
a flaw of the EA games. But I mean, I'm not defending it at all.
No.
I don't understand the people that play most of these games. Like
I don't
like
either,
dropping in
genuinely.
and casually playing NHL. And now that it's free 6 months into each release cycle,
Yeah.
I'm never gonna buy another one.
Yeah.
Because I can just sit there and be like, oh yeah, I pick up, I play a couple of games of hockey, maybe sim a couple of seasons as a GM, and then I'm good until the next one.
Well, like, so for what I also understand, I've not played most of these games. My experience is a lot of like I used to sell them when I worked at GameStop, and I talked to a lot of the people who like bought them every year for like a couple years, and my experience online with people who I know who like play them, and it's just they buy the game every year to then like the most of the people I know play the Ultimate Team mode, which is just like a sports themed gacha game. And it's wild to me that
And it's worse than that.
it is. I know it is.
Because gacha, typically, there are like drops,
Uh-huh.
and you keep the things that you win.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
So
It's like
Ultimate
opening
Team
a
in
card
all
pack
of
every
these
time.
games, it is trading cards, but they're expendable. So like if
Yeah.
you play a player like 5 games in a row, you no longer have that player.
What? Oh, they expire?
There are expendable at least within a quote unquote season of Ultimate Team. Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so
they are
much
limited.
worse.
Well, and then again, right? I mean, it's not a resource that you carry into the next title, so then you have to rebuy
Yeah.
again. Like it is built for the whales that will play it. But there are like so there are other gameplay modes that I could see being appealing.
Yeah.
Like, one that always has been interesting to me is there is league play for NHL, and people that are very into it get into it. Until
Yeah.
I had a system that I could participate in, didn't have access and just followed it remotely. But basically, you lock in as a player, and depending on how intense you want to go, you can have a full roster team that plays like once a week in a league, and you
Hmm.
play your position. And when your line shifts, you go to the bench and wait until your next shift. Like it is
Huh.
real time sim at a position, playing the position in hockey. And that's
I
pretty
think
cool.
I think Madden would break if you did that. I don't think it is
But having
capable of doing
22 players on the field,
on the same
I'm
time on the same side or just.
actually, let's see. Player cap Madden
I'm sure
2025.
it's just
I'm sure.
1v1 or like 2v2
Oh,
tops.
they're talking about salary cap. God damn it. Player maximum.
I'm sure it's like 2v2 tops. I bet you.
I need to stop searching. How many player? Jesus Christ. How multiplayer? Well, the problem is we're talking about like in a normal video game, you say player, and that is someone playing the game.
They're
And in
talking
this,
about
it's
the players
someone on the
in
field.
the
Yes.
game on the field. Yes.
Um, I see 2v2.
Yeah, that's what I thought maybe the cap would be.
Um, let's see. I bet the Xbox game listing will tell me how many simultaneous players there can be.
Maybe so.
Xbox local co-op 2-on-2, online co-op 2 to 3, local multiplayer 2 to 4, online multiplayer 2 to 6. That is so few to me.
It is. This game is held together by like rubber bands, string, and hopes and dreams, and
I mean,
billions of
like
dollars.
fundamentally, the core gameplay loop. I mean, it hasn't changed much, but it's not broken. Like
Well,
it very much works.
kind of. It
I don't enjoy it, but like for a
they
basic football sim,
they have continuously because I watch so once a year YouTuber I follow does like a really in-depth review of Madden because it's kind of like what started his channel years ago. And I've kept up with them mostly just for like the Schadenfreude of like, haha, silly sports gamers. What's going on with this one? But it's just kind of like every year it's like they took this feature away. Yeah, we have this feature gone now. Oh, we got this one back. They gave us back a feature they took away 20 years ago, and it's just now coming back, and it's acting like it's a new thing. It's just such a fascinating concept
but
to me. Like,
rarely is it actual gameplay features. Typically, it is gameplay modes.
well, these ones I'm specifically talking about are like the ways that like characters interact on the field during like gameplay. Like there's some,
Yeah.
what was the fuck it called? It was like called what the fuck? I wrote it down earlier. I thought I was gonna remember. There was like one that was like a way that like you did tackles where it was like a timing thing on defense where like if you push the right stick at a certain point too
Probably a
early,
hit
you
stick,
missed.
I'm sure.
Hit stick, that's the word. They
Yeah,
like
that's.
they
I
like
mean,
basically took it away and then just gave it back to them and are acting like it's a new feature again. It's like,
yeah. I mean, it probably had some bugs. I would imagine, and I'm sure it still doesn't work very well because it was a
no,
poorly implemented feature. They did
uh-huh,
it in the NHL games for a while too, where right stick you could throw a body check when you were on
uh-huh.
defense, and routinely your guy would just kind of ragdoll to the ice. Like he just didn't know how to throw a hit, nor did he know how to recover after trying to throw a hit. It was a bad feature. You would just lose control of your character for a few minutes, and so people went back to playing with like 94 controls, which is just like tap Y2 hit. But anyway, yeah, I mean, yes, it's funny that people like it less. The fundamental takeaway that I have though is they're shitting on it like Xbox versus PlayStation or Marvel versus PC
uh-huh.
or whatever else.
Mm,
EA's making money either way, so they do not care.
I know.
And there's going to be people in both camps that are going to scream about it. There's going to be a whole lot of more people that are like, I can buy 2 football games now.
I those are the vast majority. The vast majority of like quote unquote gamers with the capital G are the people who buy Call of Duty every year and play like all of the sports games, and that's like a vast majority of gamers on paper. And they spend money and they've got like their little finance job or whatever. They come home and they blow money on Madden. It's just fascinating to look at. Like it's just something that just intrigues me and I keep an eye on because at the core I'm like I do occasionally get the itch to be like, I'd play a football video game. I like football enough that I'd be like, all right, yeah, I like some of these older ones. And then I look at it and I'm like, never mind. I'm not getting into this shit.
I mean, you can still sit down. Actually, right now, I'm sure on Game Pass, you'll be able to install Madden
Yep.
24 for free. You can play a single player
Yeah.
game, and
Yeah.
it'll be everything you want out of a football game.
I guess.
But it just, I know that it makes waves and it makes news, and it's just like, I
The
think it's
amount
just
of
rage
money
bait.
it makes is just insane to
But
me.
it's very much just rage baity nonsense. Like, it is very much people that are trying to make controversy or trying to make a story when realistically, like, nobody cares. Either people are buying it or they
Yep.
can like pile on in the Facebook comments about how they're not going to buy it. But like, I mean, they're doing it with Concord right now. You
Yep.
do understand that Concord went from game to now it is both a symbol that woke goes broke. If you don't know about that
I
whole
know about
side of the
that.
controversy, and you remember all the people that are still playing Overwatch, who are currently playing Overwatch and like playing
Uh
Overwatch?
huh.
Because they are taking
Dead game.
lap upon lap upon lap about how generic and boring this looks compared to Overwatch. And boy, oh boy, what were they thinking when there's a better game that's free? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's free because they made it free after everybody else paid for it, just like Concord's about to do.
Uh
And
huh.
oh, by the way, there's somebody sitting right here that we were just making fun of, somebody spending a bunch of money on a game. You want to talk about how much money you have sunk into Overwatch? Because it could probably buy a cheap, shitty car. Like, you've
I
probably got a
mean,
Civic worth of Overwatch.
in fairness to me, that was like the only game I was playing for like nearly 6 or 7 years. And I still have all of the stuff that I paid for. It's still there. I could go and use it and enjoy it. It's not like they made
Dude,
an
I dare
Overwatch
you.
3 and I don't have any of my skins or anything that I spent money on anymore and it's just gone to the void. It's still there. I can still enjoy it.
Do it. I dare you.
No, I don't want to. I'm tired of the experience.
uh,
Concord just makes me sad.
PS5 Slim got leaked.
Yeah, it did. It's
It's
PS5 Slim or like they're doing like a PS5 Pro and like they did a upcharge on like the original PS5 is going to get like a 20% increase in Japan or something was what I was saying about PS5 news.
I mean, it is a line refresh, and they're slims.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, they are both skinnier than the Fat Boy models. They have a disc and no disc option, and both are skinnier than the
Okay.
current
Yeah.
like
Probably.
non-disc option.
Yeah, my non-disc or my disc one is just massive. It's just this monstrously sized console. I don't know.
But there are also quote like new PS5 models that are
Uh-huh.
going to be skinnier than the
Yeah,
current model.
yeah. I know.
Anyway, it's interesting that it took them this long to do a refresh, considering the troubles that they had and how expensive it was to make.
It's a thing that I just kind of feel like I don't know who's the target demographic for this thing because like everyone I know who has like a PS5 and stuff like the games that are out aren't like pushing the limits of what the PS5 and Xbox One or whatever can do, and it's just kind of feels like it is unnecessary right now.
I mean, Xbox is releasing new hardware, PlayStation's releasing new hardware, Switch is overdue to release new
I mean, yeah,
hardware.
Switch is overdue for a new console, but yeah.
Yes. But I think that's all you're going to get from here on out. I mean, the Switch
know.
I could see going to a stationary object because while I know that folks use it in handheld mode,
That's probably the
like
way I've
most
played it
people
the
don't.
most. You'd be surprised. I've seen like polls and stuff on this, like with communities of people who play like the Switch a lot, and it's like a solid like 60-40 split of people who play it off the dock versus primarily on the dock or people who do both. But it's a lot of people who just play handheld. Like they just like to sit on the couch with their boyfriend or whatever and play their Switch while he's playing his console or whatever. And that's like a main way a lot of people enjoy it.
I mean, I can see some of the appeal. Every time I've played it in handheld mode, the battery life is not great,
It's got like
and
3
it
hours
feels like
tops.
garbage in my hands. And
Yeah.
I have relatively big hands, and it's uncomfortable in my hands. No,
Yep.
I know. But like,
Mine
I'm
start
just
cramping
imagining.
after a while. I know. I primarily have played Tears of the Kingdom in handheld mode, and that was hard. But it also made it look better because it wasn't as obvious how low resolution that game was when it was on a tiny screen.
And while I know that the Switch can't make good game because hardware limitations, I
Uh-huh.
also haven't played virtually any Switch games. Like all of my Switch titles are like, hey, this is a re-release of a Wii or Wii U or Super Nintendo or DS game that you never played, and I'm like, oh yeah, I want to play that.
Yeah,
That's those are the games that I want to play. I have no interest in, like, I know you like Splatoon. I don't have an interest in Splatoon.
I like Splatoon a lot.
I don't like. Is it a single player campaign at all?
Yes. Yeah, there is. There's a
Okay,
good there's actually
I
like a
guess
decent story in 2 and 3.
I guess I get that, but like I just when I look at it, I'm like, oh, a third person painter shooter. Yeah, I
I
can do
liked
without
it.
that for $60.
I liked it because I like objective based games, that it was an objective based game that wasn't just only about how many kills can you get on the opponent, and it wasn't just like grab the bomb and plant it or something. It was just like it was something I'd never seen before, which was like
It's like,
control physical territory by like painting it with your gun, and they're trying to paint their area with the gun, and that's the main combat is painting. It was
yeah, you
interesting.
clearly didn't play enough Tony Hawk.
I did not.
Like one of the core multiplayer modes, whoever does a trick on an item paints it in their color, and
Uh,
it is a competition to paint the skate park, and you can take over theirs by doing a better trick on the same object.
okay. But yeah,
But
Splatoon was fine.
it's the same gameplay. Like it's just objective based shooter versus skate sim arcade game. But like again, they have the gall to never put anything on sale. Like I would
That
maybe
is
try
my
some of
biggest
those
problem with
games.
Nintendo stuff, is how expensive like they
Well,
want to
and
sell their games for. That makes me mad. It never goes down in price either.
well, I mean, they usually they go on sale for about 20 to 30% when they go on
Sometimes, yeah.
sale, as long as they're 6 months or older.
Yeah.
Like I mean, you can buy Tears of the Kingdom right now for like $40, and
Yeah.
that's fine. And then when they do their like Nintendo Selects, or no, it's PlayStation Selects. What the hell were the Nintendo ones? But they have like a curated library that the red boxes.
Yeah, like the classics
Um,
or whatever.
Usually those are like $10 or $11 less. But the point being, in my experience, I very rarely am like, oh, I just spent $60 on a Mario game and I feel like it was worth that.
Yeah.
I
The one
can't
that I
think
would
of
say
one.
Odyssey, I felt like was worth $60. I played a lot of that game. That was a fun game.
I played through that game. I did not get enough enjoyment out of that game to call it a $60 game. Like it was a
I had a fun
solid
time.
3 or 4 hours of my time to
I got a lot more out
not
of it.
quite like I didn't have the urge to 100% it because psychopaths 100% 3D Mario games.
That is the places that they came up with to hide those moons is like I never did it, but I saw videos of people being like, this is some fucking sadistic shit that I would have never thought of in my entire life.
Well,
How am I
it's a
supposed to figure this out?
it's a jump puzzle plus a like wall hack to launch yourself into the sky 7 billion meters, and then you have to aim right to hit the moon or you miss it. Like, oh
Well,
yeah,
there was like
that makes sense. Mario game.
one that was like stare at the sun for 30 seconds and then there will be a taxi cab on the sun, and if you look at it you get the moon. And I was like, what the fuck? Like, who's doing this? Like, it was just funny to me. It's like, how do you figure this shit out?
Well, my favorite ones are because collecting stars and moons in those games
Uh-huh.
typically will end the stage.
Yes.
There's several of them that are like, oh, just jump off of this cliff and commit suicide and land on it on the way down, or you die.
Yep.
And you're like, oh, okay, thank you. Anyway, it just among others. Like I don't know. Like there's that. There's um like and it's not that I don't enjoy the game. It's just like if I'm going to buy a game, play through the entire game in 3 or 4 hours, I can do that with so many indie games that feel just as good and sometimes better. Not
Yeah.
not always. Like there are some jank games, but like it'll be 15 or $20.
No, I go. I
And I'm
I get you.
like, would you rather play Hollow Knight or Metroid Dread?
Yeah, I'd rather play Hollow
Both
Knight.
are good games,
Yeah, I'd probably play
but
Hollow Knight.
Hollow Knight's $20.
Yeah,
And
that's the thing.
sometimes
That's a hard one to do, but at least there's kind of like a stamp of quality with Nintendo stuff that's been pretty consistent. Of like, it will be at least a decent to good video game no matter what.
hold on. There is one series of Nintendo games that is worth $60.
Oh yeah.
Pikmin. And it's just because there's not a lot of people making clones. Like if there
if they were
would be
still making
more,
Overlord games.
well, that's like there's Overlord, and then there was one like cozy game a few years ago that like Tinykin, I think was the name of it.
Maybe.
That was definitely just a Pikmin clone.
Yeah, there
But
every now and then there comes around like a little Pikmin-esque clone.
but none of them quite. Like usually they don't land on the things that actually work about Pikmin. Like Wild at Heart was one that it's the same idea, like you're chucking stuff and it's relatively cozy art, but it just like there's a specific like je ne sais quoi of how the puzzles are built, how your time management works. I don't know. They're very fun games, and it's often replicated and very rarely to a positive effect.
Yeah.
Similarly, like I really like the Oddworld games and the Lemmings games, and frequently people will be like, "Ooh, let's make one of those," and then it's awful.
Yeah, the only Oddworld game I've played is the Stranger's Wrath one. That's the only one I've ever played.
There are a lot of bad Oddworld games too.
That's the only Oddworld game I played that people seem to genuinely like. Like, it was very popular at the time.
The flavor of it's kind of fun, but isn't that the one that like is kind of a janky rail shooter for a good amount of it?
No, it's like an open world. It's kind of an open world FPS in a way, which was kind of novel at the time. And like you go into like weird on all fours, like motorcycle mode where he like sprints around. He's like this weird monster thing. And it's like a story of like industrialization coming to the wilds and like forcing out the nature that was there originally, which is kind of what he's supposed to be like a representative of in a weird way. It's interesting. A little crossbow where he shot little fuzzy critters at things.
Yep.
Good game. Good game. I liked it. I remember it fondly.
Well, don't play Soulstorm. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah,
They came out with one in like 2020 or 2021 that like is bad. Is real bad.
oh good.
It's just real bad.
I'm not planning on doing that.
That's why I'm gonna play Herdling.
Herdling.
Give me my games where I must take care of things.
Yeah,
I am
herd.
good shepherd. I am father. I will take care. My creatures will survive. I mean, like self-imposed challenges. Like I will play Pikmin, and if Pikmin die, I start over. Like I am like, they must all live. My children.
Jesus, that sounds like a nightmare.
Most of the challenges in that game you can very easily surmount as long as you take time to plot and strategize. It's just people frequently are like, what if I just push the yeller button that makes them all charge in and start hitting them, and then a couple of them get hit while I kill the thing? I'm like, but at its basis, it's a real-time strategy game and resource management game. That's what it's for. Why are you wasting your resources?
Blunt force. Easiest pathway. Do it.
Yeah. Anyway, I like them a lot. We got here because I said something about PlayStation pricing.
Yeah, we were talking
no,
about like the
PlayStation hardware.
yeah, the PlayStation up hardware stuff, and it's like, it's just,
I don't know. I'm probably won't buy one.
Yeah, this has been like the conversation around like this entire console generation has been kind of interesting because I don't think we've really seen a game that has been developed from like the ground up on the new hardware. So everything just kind of feels like an upscaled like PS4 game or something.
Hold the phone. What are you talking about? We played Forspoken, all of us.
Oh man, it was a Square Enix game. I don't know. There hasn't been a lot that have been built for the ground up. Like I said, though, like every game that it's come out on, it has very much felt like just an upscaled PS4. And as we're not near the limits of what the capability of this console is, so it feels weird to me that we're trying to like make a better version when it's like,
Well,
well, the first one's
it's
still
what
got
they
plenty
are.
of headroom.
But it's what they are. Like fundamentally, the PS5 and the new series of Xbox and like they aren't truly like there's a reason that you could co-develop games for them is because
Yeah,
essentially all you were doing was AI upscaling or resolution scaling. Like it's not
yeah,
like the textures are better in Marvel
yeah.
Spider-Man Miles Morales on
No,
PS5 relative to PS4.
it looks exactly the
It,
same as my PS4 copy did. Like it might run a little bit better because I was running on like a PS4 like regular, but still,
but
like they
like
visually look the same.
and that's some of the stagnation of the platform, but like there's an argument to be had that we really don't need that to ever be the case. Like I understand that people like that, but I would much rather have resource intensive games than visually intensive games because the best games from my childhood to now that I've played are ones that have distinct art styles,
Yep.
not ones that are shooting for a quote unquote realism added.
Yeah, I don't
And it's
like
part
the
of the
chase
reason.
of being hyper realistic. It's not for me. It's not my thing.
Well, and it's part of the conversation that we've had a couple of times where I'm like, yeah, it's just generic CG. Like, one, I can tell it's fake because it's CG, and two, just kind of looks bad. Like it's whether it's Uncanny Valley or whatever else. Like I would much rather you have a clear art direction,
Yeah.
execute it well, and let me play that. Like the last game that I can think of that I really enjoyed playing through for a recent generation um, platform, it's like Psychonauts 2
Hmm.
was good. Like it feels and looks good throughout. Um, Hi-Fi Rush. Hi-Fi Rush was good,
Yeah.
but like after that, I can't think. But like there hasn't been anything in 2024 that has struck me that direction, and 2023 as well. You know, like they're few and far between because people are like, well, you've got the string of consoles and string of games that we were already talking about, Madden and Call of
Yeah.
Duty and
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody else. It's an iteration on a theme, which hold that thought because I've got a thought on fucking Call of Duty because I'm not sure if you've seen it or not. Do you know what I
Probably
want to
not.
talk
I
about?
don't know
Okay,
what you're wanting to talk
we'll
about.
come back to it. We'll come back to it. But all of the new or newer games, right? Anybody that's trying to make a new franchise, revive an old one, whatever. Like I don't need another remake or remaster of a game to ever be made.
Yeah. I
But
get what you
all it
mean.
is in service of that. It's like I do think Resident Evil and Resident Evil 2 remasters had a worthwhile basis, and even 3, right? Three's the same control scheme. But why did they do 4?
It feels better than the original. That's why. Like it just controls like a more modern video game. It just drives better at its core.
Except it's the same controller and control base.
Yeah, it
Like
drives better. It
prior to that,
feels
you didn't have the additional
better.
triggers. Like people were using D-pads instead of analog sticks. Like I understood
It's
updating
it's a
tank
lot less
controls,
clunky.
but we
You can
didn't
also
need
like
it.
move while shooting instead of having to stand stock still. Like there's like a few updates to it that they've done and like combat things that they've changed which make it feel better.
Did we? Did we need a $60 graphical update that also changed to the VO to make it less entertaining?
I
Like
paid
I
40
don't
bucks
know.
for it. I don't know. I didn't pay
Same with
60,
same
so
with same with the Dead Space remaster that I look at and I'm like, this game's a decade old and you didn't do anything to make it better.
it looks a lot better visually. Although they did add bad voice acting that I don't like because I liked the first one because Isaac didn't fucking talk. Once he
But
started talking, I hated him.
but it didn't need it. That's what I'm saying. Like there is no need for this like HD remat. Like the game exists. Just play the game.
I mean, you can.
It's
I
just
mean,
a
that
cash
was
grab.
there is some stuff to do that one. I don't remember like all the exact details of what they fixed and changed. Like there is fundamental like core gameplay things that they changed about how Dead Space 1 played. So it's more than just like a graphical refresh, but I get what you mean.
Like it was sitting like it's just creating a new way to play an old title, and it's a lot more money. Good. We did it, guys.
People don't have the console to play that one on. They didn't play it when it first came out. I mean, it makes sense to a degree.
For a PlayStation user, if you're on Xbox, you can still play it on Xbox. If you're on PC, you can still play it on PC.
I mean, they can't go and buy an Xbox 360 copy at like most retail stores. They'd have to go to like eBay or Amazon or something. And
No, they would have to go to the Xbox store and buy the game for $10. For the virtual library, you can buy the Xbox 360 title. You can buy Xbox titles. Like they're good on curation. I just it's such a befuddling concept to me that hey, you know this thing that you like? What if we put in the minimal amount of effort and resell it to you for 4 times the price?
I mean, those ones like you listed though are like ones that were like pretty decent ones though, and like all they did was they made it look better and play better. Okay, cool. I will take a game that I enjoyed that fixes a lot of my fundamental problems I had when it released and makes them slightly better. All right, cool.
We'll agree to disagree on that one because it's the only thing they want. Like we're getting so many like you remember when they shit, like half of Gamescom was, hey, we're making remakes of these like we're about to get some Sega Dreamcast games because that was the Sega or Capcom release for this year. Is they're like, hey, guess what? We're gonna plumb the depths and bring you another title that was on the Dreamcast. But hey, now it's $40.
I don't know. When you get that old with some
Mega
of them,
Man again.
But you get some of those older ones like that, the fucking resale market and like people who have copies of them are fucking ridiculous. I mean, you can emulate it, yes, I know, but like, I don't care. I am this person who buys these though. Is the thing. I enjoy them, and a lot of the time they're games I never played in the first place. So it's like, all right, I can download it on Steam. Hell yeah, let's go.
I'm not saying a Steam release. I'm saying a remake / remaster with modern graphics that we're going to build from the ground up and sell at a full price game, even though it is not a full game experience relative to the modern day. Like anyway, it's such a strange shift in markets, and like I mean, it's the problem that I had at my core for Romulus too. Is just like we're not making new things.
No, because no one
focusing on making
has ideas, and new ideas are scary and might not make as much money. Whereas like redoing something we've done before for a slight upgrade, hell yeah, people will shell out the money for it. These little pay pigs will love it and they'll pay us for it, and we'll be oink oinking all the way to the bank. It'll be great.
Oh, and that'll be the problem. Is eventually
it's this problem with fucking movies. Movies have been doing this since the 50s. Remakes of remakes of remakes of remakes.
Well, but there was a time where, like, yes, remakes have always been a thing because people are like, I have a fresh take on this idea. Let me update it. But you're not going to pretend to me that, like, the Psycho remake in the 90s with Vince Vaughn is Hitchcock's Psycho.
I would not. No, I've not seen them, but yeah.
But it's not the same fucking thing sold to me again. For all of its faults, CGI Lion King has more merit than Resident Evil 4's reskin. Because they at least made something different. It's bad, but they made something different. Like, it's more akin to the Disney Vault, where it's, hey, it's been 5 years. Would you like to buy the same thing? I promise you it's better.
I mean, I get what you're saying.
Interviews with a director.
But these things are fundamentally better in every way for a lot of them. Like, if it was a worse one, like the GTA one they did, yeah, you got a point. But for the most part, they're like, it's the same game, but marginally better for certain things. Cool, great. Thank you for improving this. It is an improvement at its core.
And the other point to make is, in the 40s and the 50s, you'd see one or two remakes or retellings a year.
Mhm.
Now it is 80 to
I know.
90% of the films that are
Oh,
greenlit
I know.
are, hey, what if we make trash, but it's a remake of an old thing, so it's bankable trash?
Yep.
Or we have an adjacent title, right? Like, poof.
It
Like, this
gets
is much like Longlegs, sitting with it and deciding that I liked it more as a
I hate
film,
it
as a
more and
standalone
more
experience.
every day.
The more I think about Alien, the more I sit there and I'm just like, holy shit, they really are just throwing away this franchise. They are 100% buying into, what if we just do a nostalgia play? Because it was the safest, most Disney-fied version of a take on Alien you could have done. And that's
It
fine.
was another story with aliens in the alien universe, and it felt fine. It was a continuation of the story. Cool.
But
More story.
every sequence was either a callback to the director's earlier films or a callback to another Alien movie. Like, none of it was something fresh and new. And
It was fine. It was good. People
the
are
biggest sin
enjoying
you
it.
can I know, but the biggest sin for me in all creative mediums is boring me.
Well, it was a
And
movement back to the
it was
original ideas of actual like physical effects versus just all CG weird black aliens or whatever that they did like Prometheus and shit.
I will argue that it is better than the most recent visual effects only because of the face huggers for a handful of scenes, but most of that movie looked like hot trash when it came to the creatures
Most of them were practical effects, man.
that they then edited in digital then.
But anyway.
I but it's just like, you can strike out miserably and flame out and it'll entertain me, or it can be a really good experience and it'll entertain me. But I mean, you'll still agree with me, and I don't mean to harp on this, but from like minute 40 of that movie, there was nothing new or interesting or intense. Like, it was just, oh, it's not even a roller coaster. It's a small world, right? Like, yes, I'm moving. Yes, the plot is progressing, but it is paint by number. There is no tension. There is no anything that I am worried about. There's not even a guessing game about who survives. Like, it's just,
The last like 25 minutes was not something that I expected from that movie at all. Like, I did not see them going there. I kind of did when they were like, oh, she's pregnant in the beginning. I knew they were going to do something to her. I didn't know what. And then we got to it. I was like, okay. I was not expecting them to go to this place. It reminds me a lot of this one bad alien movie that most people hated, but it's like a better way of doing that. So, it was fine. It was good. Boy was creepy as fuck.
I think it will suffer as time goes on. I think it knocked it out of the park with being a paint by numbers remake of a bankable franchise. But it was just the latest in a series of them, right? The Star Trek remakes were rough. The Star Wars
Oh, those are bad.
reboot, whatever we want to
That
call the
was
most
a train
recent
wreck.
trilogy and movies, were rough. Like,
Yeah,
the Oceans series reboot was rough.
train wreck.
The latest Bond movies have been rough. Like, it's just make a good movie. Just make a new movie. We all should have watched the Stuntman movie from earlier this year that I blanked on the name of, but that was
Fall
at
Guy,
least fun.
right?
Yeah, yeah. I was gonna say Free Guy, and Free Guy is not the movie I'm
No, that's
thinking
the
of.
Ryan Reynolds one. This is the Ryan Gosling one. Different Ryan. Important distinction.
Yeah, not to me, but to many people out there. Ugh. What else you got? Anything?
I know I had some other bullshit, but I think it's about we can just wrap this one up on that. I think I got other nonsense, which was like talking about Concord or whatever, and fucking Star Wars Outlaws came out, and yeah, seems very
People are
mixed
high on
reviews.
it.
There's like 50-50. People either love it or they hate it. That's kind of my takeaway that I've seen. I don't want to pay $70 for it, and if I wasn't like getting ready for like another game coming out in, like a week or two. What?
It's a $40 game.
Star Wars Outlaws.
Oh, Jesus. I thought you were still talking about Concord. I was like,
Oh,
all
no,
right,
no, no,
buddy.
no, 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 no. Star Wars Outlaws is the one that I'm talking about. The people are kind of like 50-50 on whether or not they enjoy it or like, and it's like $70. So I'm like, I'm not buying into that right now.
And
Um, I'll
one
wait
can
for it
only
to
hope
do the
it'll be free
Ubisoft
before the
thing
end
and
of the
be like 50% off in like 4 months because that's what happens every time they release anything nowadays.
Not with Disney product.
We'll see. Um, I finished the
I
first
mean, it'll
like
be a year or two.
yeah, I finished the first remake of God of War finally. I've
Do
vaguely
you
changed
mean
my
the remake
opinions
of
on it.
God of War, or do you mean the PS4 God of War reboot?
The
Norse
reboot
God
of
of War?
Norse God of War. The first they just call it
Okay.
God of War, whatever. I don't remember
No,
what
I
year
know.
it
I
came
just
out. Yeah,
well, but also late in the PS3 era, they
I
remade
I
all the
know,
God of War
I know,
games.
I know. It's like the true like reboot of God of War or whatever, the Norse one.
Yeah,
Yeah, I finally finished
fine.
that for the first time. I haven't played the second one. I just finished the first one, but like,
Did you do all the Surtur trials?
no, hell no, I haven't done
Oh,
that
okay.
yet. I
They're a
might
pain in
go
the
and do
dick.
that stuff. Yeah. So that stuff. Well, so like my biggest problem with that game, the reason why I didn't like it, like looking back at it now, is like I didn't enjoy combat for like the first 50% of that game. Once they gave me the Blades of Chaos, I was like, oh, I like this game now. This plays good and feels good to me. I hated the axe so much. It did not play well to me. And it was
That's
annoying. And there were so many enemies that would do shit to me that I'm like, I hate what they're doing. I have nothing to answer this with other than come up and try to hit them or shoot them with Atreus's bow. And then later I was like,
it's
I have answers for all of these problems now.
it's funny because I very specifically like kept them out of my rotation of weaponry.
I used them
I
because they
hated
made it
them.
feel like a God of War game again, and I was mowing through everybody. It felt great once I got the Blades of Chaos. Combat actually felt good.
Oh, I'm glad that you gave it another try because I tried like when I because I borrowed that one from you, right?
Yeah.
That was one of the titles that I pulled and was like, I'll give it a try. And I, again, it's not game of the year the way that it was hyped up,
Yeah, so
but
like, yeah, good.
it's fun. Like
Yeah, it was fine.
especially for a free game, I liked it.
Yeah,
If I had paid $60,
yeah.
wouldn't have liked it as much.
I loved the old God of War games, so it was a very big departure from those ones, and I did not really care for Souls-like games, and it felt a lot more like a Dark Souls than a God of War game, so I was very much not a fan. I mean, my biggest critiques are like, there's like 4 enemy types in the whole game. That was kind of annoying, just fighting hundreds of
But
fucking
they
Draugr.
changed colors.
Hundreds of fucking Draugr. The same like one boss. I was like, come on. Like that kind of annoyed me. The first ones at least had like a bunch of different like mythical monsters and stuff that you fought. It wasn't like the same 4. That was the thing that annoyed me. And like if
They
I
were a little
didn't
limited by
know
the lore.
if I hadn't known that there was a sequel already in existence and I got to that story ending, I'd have been like, what the fuck is the point of this? We just did the thing. And it's like, oh well. I was like, well, what? We passed our mother's ashes away. Turns out there was a secret she wasn't telling us this whole time. Oh well. It's like it just felt very like unfulfilling at the end.
The secret that she didn't tell you, they reveal in that game.
No, I know, but it was just very much like, okay, what now? Like it just felt like there
Okay.
was more going on that was just like it felt kind of just like it felt like the Spider-Verse movie to me, where it was like we resolved one of many
Sure.
plot points, and it was like, well, what about the rest of the shit?
I mean,
Next one.
yes, as a standalone game, it is not necessarily something that you would feel resolved all of the plot lines throughout. However,
If
I
I
would
had beat
argue
that in
most games don't
2016,
have a
or if
campaign that resolves itself outside of super heavy narrative driven games like a Naughty Dog title where they're like, this is a bottle episode.
that's kind of what that one was marketed as in a way. And like, if I didn't know the future, like if I'd finished it at the time and not known that there was a sequel, I would have been like, I guess that's that. You know,
I took it
wouldn't
on
have
as
felt
a
it very
soft reboot of
unsatisfying.
a 7 title series, and there wasn't a chance in hell that if it did anything other than sell mediocre, then it was not going to guarantee a sequel. But I mean, it did a lot better than they thought it would. The studio was a bare bones studio, and now it's very robust. I'm
Uh
sure the
huh.
sequel is a lot better than the first one in terms of how it feels. I didn't
Probably.
have any interest in buying it, but
Well, it's also like it does the thing that I hate with a lot of games where it's like, I feel like if I had had all of my weapons and abilities from the beginning of the game, it feels like it was built around having all of your weapons and abilities from the beginning, especially because it has New Game Plus. Because there were so many moments where I was incredibly frustrated by enemies that later became trivialized by like, oh, I have all of my weapons and I have answers for this now that I didn't have before.
I mean, that is a core of game design, though. Like, most game creators will tell you that they want your most challenging gameplay to be in the middle. Absolutely not at the end. Like, they want you to build, feel like there's a slog, and then develop to the point where you feel like you're stomping on the things that were a challenge earlier. Right? You're
I
taking on
just
two of the big troll guys that were absolutely wrecking your shit at the beginning of the game.
mine was more just there was enemies that I felt like there weren't answers for that didn't like suck and were a slog to deal with versus like, oh, later when I actually have like
I
the other weapon of the game, I was like, this is not a problem anymore.
Some of that might have been the way that you built your character, which is my biggest complaint with the game, which is your skill trees. And if you don't spec properly, absolutely. If you don't know how to throw your axe and do damage, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Oh,
If you are
90% of the
if
enemies would
you are
like block
dropping
or dodge it every single fucking time. So it was like, what's the fucking point in throwing the damn thing? They always dodged it. So I never did it
Why-
after a while.
it's why you upgrade down that skill tree to make
I
it so
did.
that
I had the whole
you can-
range skill tree. They still would just fucking dodge the shit. Like even at the end of the game.
you
Or
could
they
chuck
would
it at the
block
birds
it.
and insta kill them.
Okay, yeah,
That
the
was
flying
the
things.
strategy early one. Well, yeah,
Whatever.
no, that's what I'm saying is that was your strategy for them was chuck and kill. Otherwise, they are a nightmare.
Yeah, the nightmares, that's
They
like the
just
only thing you can do about them. But like,
they just keep flying in and making you bleed. Anyway, um my two other complaints. One, should have just called it God of Thor. Second, it does one of my most hated things, which is they made big, tall, athletic, run around monster spooky boy.
uh-huh.
And then they gate off content with a roughly halfway up your shin high bramble patch.
That shit drove me crazy. And
Oh,
it's like,
yeah,
oh, I
yeah.
guess I'll have to circle back for this. And I was
Oh,
like, guess
boy,
what? I'm
hold
not
on,
fucking
we'll come
doing
back later,
that
boy.
shit. I'm
Oh,
not doing
boy.
that shit. Like, if the game didn't make me go back to that zone later once I had it, I would have not gone back for a lot of those.
Well, lucky you, it also does the other cardinal sin for me, which is you walk through the entire map 3 times.
Yep. It's like we kept going back to the same fucking place. And I was like, oh, it's open world. And it's like, actually, it's not really. There's like 3 places that you go like 5 times. The third time going back up the mountain, I was like, I'm so fucking sick of this goddamn mountain.
Enough of God of War.
Yeah, that's all I got.
I've got oh, probably just one more. And that is looping back to Call of Duty. You know who dropped a fucking track for the Call of Duty soundtrack?
Is it Ronnie Radke? Please tell me it's someone like terrible.
It is kind of.
It's not picking up on your microphone. It is not coming through at all.
Killer Mike.
Oh, okay.
He made The Detonator, and it is an LP.
Oh,
fucking
okay. That's for
produced
Call of
track.
Duty. I knew that he released a new like LP produced track. I didn't know it was for Call of Duty.
It's so frustrating to me. I'm like, make a damn Run the Jewels album. Like, I just don't understand. What I really just want is more LP. And I
Yeah.
think I've talked to you about that previously.
Yep.
And he has just been, he did the most recent Crosses album, and that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's also featured on a track, but that's all. That was all I really had. Was he's got a song called Detonator, and the first line when he says detonator makes me laugh so hard. Can you hear it at all?
No, not at all. It's like
fine.
noise gated.
He goes, talk about a detonator. But there's like whole interviews where he's talking about he was described the theme and the subject of the game and wrote this song for it and immediately knew that he needed LP on it. And I'm like, please don't tell me that you had to make a lot of creative decisions making a video game tie-in song for Call of Duty.
For Call of Duty, yeah.
Black Ops 7 or whatever the hell they're 6. 8?
It's like 6 or 7.
6 then. I know it's well.
It's
Yeah,
6. I'm pretty
I
sure.
think. Anyway, I it was one of those, you wake up in the morning, you see new Killer Mike track, and I'm like, he just released an album. Why does he have a new track? And then I clicked on it. I was like, oh no.
I saw that it happened. I did not know that it was Call of Duty.
He's talking about a detonator.
Talking about a detonator.
Oh, it's just the detonator.
Detonator.
Detonator. And it's because of the flow. It's the driving beat is so he's trying to match up with that, and it's this slight little shuffle in the delivery of the line. And anyway, I don't know why it entertains me so much. All right, we want to bounce for a few minutes and get some people on for some deed lock.
Yeah. So that's everything. See y'all next week. Next Friday we'll do this again.
That's all, folks.
Bye.